And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another episode of TECSpertZ here. Lucky 7, episode 7. Anthony Bove here, Markayla, Max, and Brennan. TECSpertZ is sponsored by the Big Vape Theory and East Carolina University's Office of Undergraduate Research. And TECSpertZ is a collaboration between WZMB and the East Carolinian. Well, where do we start? Coming off a bye week this past week. Prior to that, however, we faced UCF down in Orlando and just lost that one. It was in the palm of our hand, let it slide. The final score was 20-16. Hard-fought game here. One that we would have liked to have back and would have liked to chalk up in the win column, however, did not do that. And then we were going to look forward to this week against Houston on the road this Saturday. So without further ado, let's get right on into it. Let's talk about UCF game.
Yeah, for me, this is a big game. Come down 20-16. This is a big game that we had to win, especially being that close near the end of the game. This is a game to me that if we win this, we're feeling pretty good about a bowl game. Now we're looking at a 3-3 game, a 3-3 season so far, and we have to face Houston next, a game which we could easily steal, especially after beating Tulane in the margin that we did, but not really, a give-me game. Right. So we're going to have to compete very hard, but this is a game we can't drop 2 back-to-back. We have to win this Houston game. If we drop 2 back-to-back, go to 3-4, a season that was looking pretty good is now starting to drop a little bit. So we do need to steal this one over at Houston and then see where that leaves us coming into the end of the season. If we go 4-3, I'm feeling better than if we're going 3-4.
Sitting so far right now, 3-3 is our record.
Right.
So
that explains kind of the up and down that we have. The conversation that we've had has been. At first we were talking about we're going to struggle to win 6 games. Then we were talking about, hey, we might actually be able to do this.
Yeah.
And now we're talking about if we lose to Houston, we might not win our 6 games. So I feel like every week that we face into an opponent, we're going to be dealing with that. We're going to be thinking about, hey, these 6 wins matter because we keep winning 1, losing 1, winning 2, losing 2. We can't just keep stringing these wins together. I think against Houston, Tulane is a good measuring stick. Both of us have played Tulane at one point, and both became victorious in the end. We won by a bigger margin, and I think that goes to show that's a point of emphasis for our offense because we were dogging on our offense a little bit early, but we've been able to keep the ball rolling, get it better. I think even against UCF, we showed that we can fight. Even if we weren't able to come out with a win, I think it was a good loss, and it was what do you call it, a momentum loss or one of those
a
kinds
moral.
of things. A moral victory.
There was a moral victory there, even in the loss.
Yeah.
And I do have to agree, and saying that we're 3-3, we're still on pace to get 6 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I said earlier, if you're a long-time listener of the show, you know that I said that Tulane was the game that we had to win. We had to steal that game, which we did. Now we're 3-3. For me, we still have 3 games that are very easy for us to steal. We have Temple, we have USF, and we also have Navy, which are 3 games that we could easily take. But for me, I don't want to rely on winning those 3 games. I would rather have a little bit of a cushion of a game where we could falter 1 week and struggle a little bit, but still be able to meet that 6-win goal. And I thought UCF was going to be a big game for that, especially since we were coming off a 3-win streak. First time in 7 years the program had done it. So we were going into UCF, a team that was supposed to dog us with a lot of good momentum. And we brought that momentum to the field, but offense struggled a little bit. Yeah. Holton Ayers only thrown for 219 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. That seems to be a little bit of the theme this year, is that whenever Holton's throwing interceptions, we're not doing so well on offense. Whenever Holton's throwing touchdowns, we're real good. We did talk about having to move the ball around. Fortunately, Tyler Snead did lead us in receiving yards. Been a real spark plug for us this year, but only 6 receptions with 82 yards. So even though he's leading us in receptions, that's not a lot of yards, which shows you how we had difficulty moving the ball up and down the field.
Yeah, I agree. 1 touchdown against a team is not going to work out. We cannot score 1 touchdown against Houston and expect to win. 82 yards receiving. I mean, that's all fine and dandy that he led us with that, but that's not going to beat Houston that way. They're getting 40 and over points each game. So our quarterbacks have the same amount of interceptions this year, but in each, their quarterback, their leading rusher, and leading receiver, they have more touchdowns than us. So I think it's going to be a hard game, but like you said, Tulane was a good measuring stick because we beat Tulane by around the same margin of 20 points, but we did put more points up against Tulane than they did. So there's a chance we could win this, but they got to come out strong after that bye week. They can't play like they played against UCF.
The takeaway from this game is that UCF scored 10 points in the fourth quarter as to where East Carolina only scored 3.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it slipped away on our part. We didn't finish strong as to where they did. They really got the ball rolling later on in the game. They Neither team actually scored in the first quarter.
Wait.
It was 3-3 going into halftime, and then we start scoring some more points. We scored 10 in the third quarter, and they scored 7, and then we pretty much flatlined at the end of the game, which we have talked about many times on this show before, about how sometimes we come out strong and we cannot finish the deal. And on this one, we actually did not come out strong, and we didn't finish strong either. So that was the situation.
That's the thing. We talked about this last week, I believe, was having to focus and play 4 good quarters of football.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we don't need one 24-point explosion like we had versus CSU.
Yeah.
We just need to play 4 good quarters of football, scoring in each quarter, scoring consistently in each quarter. Now, I did talk about the struggles we did have on the offensive side of the ball, but I also want to point out the victories we did have on the defensive side of the ball this week. Now, we held UCF to only 20 points, and we mentioned Tyler Snead leading us with 6 receptions and 82 yards. But their leading receiver, O'Keefe, had 10 receptions with 73 yards. So having another team, if we're going to struggle like that, our defense really has been picking up the slack that our offense has struggled with this year. They are coming out. They are holding UCF, who was expected dogging us a little bit, to only 73 yards passing by their leading receiver. I think that's a win on the defense side of the ball.
Yeah.
That's why I do think we do have a moral victory coming out, and I think that's been a theme this year is our defense has just been playing extremely well. I mean, Jaquan McMillan really been a spark plug for us over there at his position, getting several interceptions for us this year, big-time interceptions late in the game. But we can't just rely on our defense to do that. If our defense is playing good, we need to at least put points up on the board. We can't rely on just field goals. Our last 2 scoring possessions in the game were field goals. And the thing with that is the points are great, but you're only keeping it to 1 possession game. You need to be able to finish with the ball in the end zone, manage the clock, finish with the ball in the end zone is the name of the game late.
Yeah, with offense, like we said before, Keaton Mitchell was running over all of our teams, but he was only held to 67 yards, which is probably one of his lowest of the season. And we said it before, they're going to see what he's doing, and they're going to stop him, which they did. I mean, Rajay Harris led us with 73 yards, but even that, for a running back, that's not amazing.
Right.
So they're going to hold Mitchell, and if Harris starts to pop out, they're going to hold Harris too. So we got to have some other options other than just running it.
Yeah, the run game was definitely pretty much non-existent for us this game, and in the past, in previous games lately, they have been just dominant, in the running game. And obviously, the receiving game not so superb either in that regard.
Passing wasn't terrible. I mean,
not terrible, but we've seen a lot more better in previous games.
We've seen a lot better. I completely agree with. But Holton with 219 yards, when you look at it, not absolutely terrible. Yeah. But the thing is, you look at 219 yards, you think, he's got to put up at least 20 points. But that is not the case here.
Now, on the flip side, how about their running attack they had going? Richardson, their leading back, 16 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. Their quarterback, Keene, actually never threw a touchdown against us. Yeah, he had an interception. He was 23 for 35, 194 yards. The other running back for them, Richard, 6 carries, 58 yards. He had a score as well. So their running attack was a lot more prominent than ours, and you can see, obviously, the difference in the game in that regard.
I think we got lucky that we didn't have their starting quarterback that was their backup because their starting was out with a clavicle injury. They don't know when he's going to be back, but their starting quarterback dominates the field. So I think if he would have been back in, then we would have been done for sure.
And this is why I feel like it was important for us to win this game when you have UCF vulnerable like they were, and we just couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think going back to that measuring stick of Tulane, seeing as though we both played them, I think we need to focus on the point that might have been the best game that we've seen out of ECU this season.
Definitely.
We had 300-plus yards on both rushing and passing. That's over 600 yards of offense. We haven't seen that out of ECU this year. However,
I don't think we've seen that out of ECU in several years.
Right, in several years.
I think said 7 years ago was the last time we did something
right, and that's crazy. But that's the best that ECU has, like we were saying, has shown in years.
Yeah. But
that's not the same for Houston. Houston has put up 40-plus points 4 times this season, and we've done it twice. So we need to be able to coming off of a bye week. It's going to be whoever can shake the dust off first.
Right.
Get the early scores. And make sure and keep the other team lacking, like just catching them sleeping, that's still on break.
Some of the scores that you kind of elaborated on a little bit here, they did lose earlier in the season to Texas Tech, 38-21. They beat up Rice, 44-7. Grambling State 45-0.
Yeah.
Navy and Houston played. It was 28-20, the final score. Houston winning that one, and then they've also beaten Tulsa 45-10, and they have also beaten Tulane 40-22. Some of these scores here, so this is definitely a team
They're having
that
a pretty good year.
very well can run up that scoreboard
Yeah.
very easily. So it should be interesting to see here. This Saturday, 4 p.m., some of the predictions here. What are we thinking? I'll start with you.
Start with me. I'm gonna say Houston comes out on top, but I think it's gonna be. I don't think we're gonna let them get into the 40s with scoring. I'm gonna say like a 38-28 game. Houston on top. I think we're gonna give them a run for their money, but I think they may run away with it in the end.
Okay. What you got?
I'm hoping ECU gets a win out of this one. I'm predicting that they do.
Wow.
I think they're going to win 35-24 just because ECU has shown sparks on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, both against Tulane and UCF. They haven't given me a reason to doubt them against Houston unless we come out and we can't score for the first 2 quarters. Then that's a problem.
Yeah.
We come out, hit them in the mouth quick. I think ECU can blow this lead open early.
I'm going to have to go 35-28, East Carolina coming out on top. Now, I don't know right now if I'm thinking more optimistic or more realistic. I think either way it's going to be around the same score depending on who wins. Honestly, I don't foresee us getting blown out at all, especially since how our defense has been playing, which has been phenomenal lately in the last few games. Our defense has really picked it up, especially since that App State game, really showing the fight moving on. Since the Marshall game, really been quite unflappable. And even versus UCF taking the loss, 20 points holding UCF to a 20-point loss, even with their backup quarterback, is something to be said there. And we have seen sparks of brilliance coming from the offense on our side of the ball. The thing for me is we need to start strong and we need to finish strong. I mean, we really need to put together 4 really good quarters of football. And if we're gonna, I said last week, I do think we need to start with the ball. But on that flip side of the coin, if we're going to start with the ball, we need to score with the ball first.
Yeah, first drive.
We can't, because then you're losing a possession down middle of the game. You need to start. If you're going to start with the ball, you got to score. So if you don't feel like you're going to start strong, you got to defer the ball, get it back at halftime. But I'm thinking 35-28 ECU coming out on top.
Okay, I have a similar score. I think that I'm going to mix it up here a little bit with the points. I'm going to go 34-21. Final score, and I think it's going to be, unfortunately, Houston being on top victorious.
So you predicting a missed field goal?
Yes, I am. Why? I don't know. I'm feeling lucky today. I'm feeling lucky on this episode here,
Episode
TECSpertZ.
7?
Yes,
Episode 7.
Lucky 7. There you have it.
Where
Exactly.
are you thinking he misses? Off right, off left?
I'm gonna go off. I'm gonna go off left. He's gonna.
Is he
He's gonna
banking off
shake it left.
Banking off the upright?
No, it's not. It's not gonna go on the upright. It's gonna go wide left into the stands. Maybe it'll hit the mascot. Who knows? We'll see. Yeah, I don't know.
Not Petey.
No, hopefully not Petey. Do they have a mascot? They're the Cougars.
The Houston
Cougars. So maybe they got a cougar. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. Okay, so that's my final score prediction. This Saturday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, live from Houston, Texas. They're going to be playing against Houston. Hopefully we are. Wait, now who predicted for ECU to win?
Those two.
We're here.
You two. Yeah. Hopefully you two gentlemen
I
are
agree.
correct.
Optimistic.
And Markayla and I are
I hope
incorrect.
I'm wrong.
We'll see. But time
No.
will just have to tell on that. So
and like I said, I think the score is going to be around the same either way. I don't think either team's going to be held scoreless. I don't think either team's going to blow this out. I think that Tulane game, like Brendan was saying throughout the entire episode, is going to be a real good measuring stick for each team, seeing how we're going to compete against each other. But I think, the 35-28 is a real good score. Either way, there's a lot of great scoring potential on either side of the ball, with each team being a very good offense when they get rolling, and obviously the defense is able to finish games for them and keep them within competing distance. So I'm excited to see whatever happens.
Let's hope they don't use home field advantage. That's what I'm hoping. I hope that we can travel like we did to Marshall and just whoop them, but we'll see.
I was even happy with how we traveled to UCF, if I'm going to be completely honest.
It wasn't bad.
Especially with our defense. As I said, offense not good. Overall, not really good. 16 points.
Poor
is
showing.
not 16 points is not going to win a football game. It's just not
Not
going to do
against
it. But the way defense, that's where I think we travel well. I don't think our offense did, but I think our defense really did pick up our slack.
And hopefully the defense travels well here to Texas, the great
Looking
state of
forward
Texas.
to it.
They do everything bigger in Texas, apparently,
Everything's
so we'll
bigger
see.
in Texas.
All right, so there you have it with East Carolina football. I'll send it over to Max here with news on lacrosse. What do you got here?
Yeah, so lacrosse, their fall ball getting started. They did have a play day this week over at Navy, playing Penn State and Maryland, did come out with a win against Penn State. Fell a little bit short versus Maryland, although a lot of great competition going on versus that Maryland team. I'm going to say it. I'm feeling very optimistic about this season for the lacrosse team. Last season, obviously, fell one game versus Temple short of making the conference tournament. But this year that the conference tournament is being played here in Greenville, we're not missing it this year. I feel very confident about our team going in, picking up these wins that we need to do, placing at least fourth in our division. I'm hoping third in our division, second in our division, I'm thinking realistically. But, I mean, I've seen them play, especially against that ODU, that first time shaking off the rust after a long offseason. They look good. They did look really good, holding them to only one goal in the second half.
Excellent.
By freshman Bryn Knight. Really excited to see what's going on here. I expect a lot of big things from this team coming up into the spring season.
Excellent.
Now I'm going to pass it over to Markayla to talk a little bit about soccer and volleyball.
All right, so they ended in a 2-2 draw versus Tulsa last night, and so their record is 7-7. They got 2 more games to the season, so hopefully they can end with a winning record. They're going to play Thursday at 7 against UCF, and then they're going to play Sunday at 12:05 versus Memphis, who is number 2 in the conference. Both games at home, so make sure you go out to see those. Tori Reyes made AAC honor roll from last night's game, and then Haley McWhorter made her 3rd straight week of Rookie of the Week for AAC, so hopefully they can bring that against the last 2 teams. And then volleyball is 7-10 right now on a 2-game losing streak, but they play 2 games this weekend. At home, Friday at 6, and then Houston Sunday at noon. So come out to those games since football isn't home, and we'll just see what happens.
Alrighty, there you have it. Anything on your end there, Brennan?
I'm good.
We're all good. Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes this episode here on TECSpertZ. Just as a reminder, TECSpertZ is sponsored by the Big Vape Theory and East Carolina University's Office of Undergraduate Research. And just know this, TECSpertZ is a collaboration between WZMB and the East Carolinian. There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That completes episode Lucky 7. Thank you all very much. We will see you here next week. Take care, everybody.